This is the ultimate Pokemon sealed booster box investing video. If you're going to watch any video on investing in booster boxes, I guess this is going to be the one. With that bold statement in play, let's talk about what we're going to talk about in this video. I made a video a few videos ago in regards to Sword and Shield growth and how much growth there still is in the booster boxes. We looked at every single booster box in Sword and Shield, compared it to every single booster box in Sun and Moon. We looked at the total value of all the booster boxes combined and just saw how low it was sitting in comparison to Sun and Moon. So what we're going to do, I've done a heap of data here in this video from Scarlet and Violet all the way back through to Black and White. And the point I really want to hammer home is just how much growth there is to still come, not only in Scarlet and Violet, but also Sword and Shield, and even Sun and Moon, and X and Y, and Black and White. Like, there's still growth to be made in those eras. So before we jump into all the data, let's ask or answer a few questions. And the first one being, why do people even buy booster boxes? And when are they popular? How hard are they to sell? And what's the point of it? And let's answer those questions. So when a booster box first comes out, and this is probably all Scarlet and Violet booster boxes, because keep in mind, all Scarlet and Violet booster boxes are still in rotation. Why and who buys them? Well, everyone that's interested in Pokemon card buys them. Why? Because they're the cheapest. Why? Because they can play the collectible card game with them. Why? Because they can have them as sealed investors and sealed collectors. Why? Because they can open them and try and chase the cards they want to chase. Why? Because they can be a rip and shipper and sell them and have a business. Everyone that's interested in Pokemon and having the cards has a different vested reason as to why they would open modern booster boxes. And what does that do? It creates almost unlimited demand for modern booster boxes. Then they get a little bit older, don't they? And then you ask yourself, well, who buys Sun and Moon booster boxes? And the audience gets a little bit smaller, doesn't it? No longer are people probably buying them to rip their favorite chase card. No longer are people buying them to rip open the packs and then make decks out of them, because they're not competitively viable anymore. So really, we're left with a smaller audience opening these boxes. Or I shouldn't say opening these boxes, but buying these boxes. So who buys older booster boxes? Predominantly, realistically, collectors and or investors are buying these boxes. Now, moreover than that, there's other people that buy these boxes as well. There are people that would buy them to rip and ship, so sell off the packs. There are people that would buy them as content creators, like maybe YouTube videos to just get views and gain traction that way by opening an older, cooler, rarer box. That could also coincide with the fact that they've sold some of those packs off or all of those packs off, so they're killing two birds with one stone. But no longer are people just ripping them to chase cards, really. No longer are people just ripping them to build decks out of them. Why? Because they're too expensive. The value equation just doesn't add up. They become a collectible in their own right, don't they? So let's jump in and have a look at a little bit of the data. So I'm going to start with Scarlet and Violet base, and we're going to go all the way through to Black and White era. And I want this to be a reason as to showing you how much growth there is to come. So if we jump in, here's all Scarlet and Violet booster boxes up on the screen here. As you can see, they're at a relatively low price. Like S&V base at $220, I think, is the second most cheapest. What have we got on there? Obsidian Flames $250. I think Paradox Rift at $212 is the cheapest booster box we got on there, right through to some of the more expensive ones, which is actually Destined Rivals, the latest release, over $301, and then Paldea Evolve sitting as the most expensive booster box at $358. If we add all these together, our total booster box value, this is the total value of all booster boxes combined from the whole Scarlet and Violet era, adds up to $2,566. That's an average booster box price of $256 US. So basically, you've got to spend roughly $250 to get yourself a Scarlet and Violet booster box. And for all these people going, oh, why are they so dear? Like, it's so hard to get in. The entry point price is too high. This is going to show you why it's probably not. Because if we move on to the next era, which is of course Sword and Shield, and this is taken straight off the Collector app, which is of course today's video sponsor. I will go into a little bit more detail about the Collector app very shortly, but if we look at Sword and Shield, we can see now that our total booster box value has gone from, and this is Scarlet and Violet era, $2,566 to $6,638. Keeping in mind there are 2 extra booster boxes in the Sword and Shield era. It seems like we got a few less booster boxes throughout the whole Scarlet and Violet era. We only got 10 in Scarlet and Violet. We did get 12 booster box sets in Sword and Shield. Needless to say though, that doesn't matter if we work out the average. The average of all Sword and Shield booster boxes is $553 US. So it's actually well and truly over double the price of the average Scarlet and Violet booster box. So what does that tell you? First of all, that tells us that in little under a generation, because we're actually not into mega evolutions yet, we're still running Destined Rivals. In little under a generation, the average booster box price has over doubled. And that's not taking into account the outliers, like things like Fusion Strike or Lost Origin, or, need I say it, Evolving Skies. As we can see, the average booster box price rapidly increases. And to further this argument, let's jump from Sword and Shield back an era to Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon, if I bring this up on the screen, and again, this is taken off the Collector app, which is probably a nice little interlude for the Collector app. It is today's video sponsor. There'll be a link in the description to download it. It's such a great app. You can add in your whole sealed and singles collection. From an investing standpoint now, if you click on Set Analytics, which have been added into the app, you can see the top hits inside the set down to the lowest hits. So you can see the best chase cards, the most expensive sealed products, but more importantly, you can see total set value, which as a collector and an investor is really important to see the total set value. That is what adds weight to the booster box's price in the future. Or Elite Trainer Box if you're looking at holiday sets. There's also some awesome pro member giveaways. I think we're doing, what are we doing? First edition base set booster packs given away. So if you're a pro member, you do go in the draw to win these. So awesome app, link in the description. So back on to Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon's total set value, $28,172. So we're not even less than 2 generations behind our total set value of $2,566 from Scarlet and Violet, $6,638 for Sword and Shield, $28,172 for Sun and Moon era. And look, a third of that nearly is made up by Team Up, but that doesn't take away from the fact that we've got some very expensive other booster boxes. Booster boxes that sat at a relatively flat price for a period of time. A lot of those mid-tier Sun and Moon sets, I'm talking sets like Celestial Storm and Lost Thunder for argument's sake, you know, they sat around that like $300 to $400 US mark for a long period of time. Celestial Storm now is over $2,000 US a booster box. Lost Thunder is over $1,500 US a booster box. Crazy. And the average booster box price, and this is of course taking into consideration Team Up, $2,342 US in a little under 2 generations ago. And look, I get the other side of the argument before we jump into XY and XY and black and white. I get the other side of the argument, which is, oh, more and more have been printed now. Oh, more and more have been put away in cupboards and people are storing them and there's more sealed supply going to be left on the market than ever before. I get those arguments. I also get the fact that PSA 10 populations are absolutely through the roof. You know, Sun and Moon PSA 10s are relatively low compared to modern standards. And when we jump into XY in a second and then black and white, they get even lower. And that's why a lot of these booster boxes have absolutely ballooned in price, because we're still talking from a lot of XY sets with some of those mega evolutions, which are incredibly hard to grade. We're talking population reports below 50 in PSA 10, which is causing them to be a very expensive card, and therefore, you know, it does add weight to the booster box price. I get that argument, I do. I get there's more sealed than ever before. I still don't think there's as much as people think, but there is definitely more sealed than ever before. But I don't think that's going to take away from the fact that these booster boxes are going to continue to rise in price quite rapidly. Will they get to the towering heights of some of the Sun and Moon sets? Will they get to the towering heights of some of the XY sets? I mean, time will tell. But look at Evolving Skies. Everyone was saying that about Evolving Skies and Fusion Strike. Overprinted, especially Fusion Strike, sitting around that $100 US mark for nearly 2 years, will never go up in price. Too many of them on the market, you know. Pull rates are too difficult. And look at the sealed product. Look at Fusion Strike. Look at Evolving Skies. These aren't short printed sets. These aren't sets with low PSA 10 populations. And what do you know? They're still climbing up in price. So if we jump into XY for argument's sake, what you'll find is a massive price when it comes to total booster box value. That is every single XY booster box. And keep in mind, there is 12 of them. So it's the same as Sun and Moon, and it's the same as Sword and Shield. $50,758 of total booster box value for XY era. So we're nearly double Sun and Moon, and Sun and Moon was nearly triple Sword and Shield, and Sword and Shield was pretty much 3 times, so triple, Scarlet and Violet. So if this doesn't tell you how much growth Scarlet and Violet booster boxes have to do over time, I don't know what other data will. And I know we have some amazing standouts in here, you know, XY Phantom Forces, you know, some of those Gengars, I was talking about low populations, some of those Mega Evolution Gengars have super low populations. Things like Ancient Origins have some super low PSA 10 populations in there. Roaring Skies, even with the Mega Rayquaza, that has quite a low PSA 10 population. Flashfire, of course, is a massive XY set. Even Evolutions is starting to climb back up in value. It's crazy. 50,000 with an average booster box price, $4,229 US. And then just to hit the nail on the head, if we jump all the way back to black and white, and these are all, I made all these little diagrams. I got 2 from Collector, of course, but made these myself. If we go all the way back to black and white, we've got black and white base at nearly $5,000 US a booster box, and total booster box value. And keep in mind, there's actually only 11 in black and white era. I shouldn't say only, that's still a fair few, but there's not 12 like we saw in XY, Sun and Moon, and Sword and Shield, but 11 booster boxes, $63,053 total booster box value. That's an average booster box price of $5,732. And it includes, and it's going to cop a stray here, it includes the worst booster box ever known to man, which is Emerging Powers. That's the worst Pokemon card set ever made, and it's still at nearly $5,000 US for a booster box. I don't know if that's just a play with that booster box. I don't know if that's a bit of a joke against it, but that's where it's sitting, with some massive box prices in here, like Dragons Exalted, arguably, well, probably is the best black and white set, which holds, of course, the highest booster box price. And that's the other thing to keep in mind across all this. If we actually look at the most expensive booster boxes across all eras, we see that these sets with the highest total set value, which predominantly comes from the top 5 hits, so these sets with the best hits inside them, have the highest booster box price. Dragons Exalted, Phantom Forces, Flashfire, Team Up, Evolving Skies, Destined Rivals, Paldea Evolved, all of these booster boxes with strong chase cards have the most expensive booster boxes. And these are what adds weight to the total set value. So if we summarize this whole video at the end here, what we can see is quite clearly that there is so much growth left to do. Total booster box value of black and white, $63,000. We go to XY, $50,000. There's still growth for X and Y. We go to Sun and Moon, $28,000. There's still growth for Sun and Moon. Sword and Shield, $6,600. And you ask yourself, okay, what era has the most room for growth here? S&V, 2,566. In the long run, of course, S&V has, you know, the best period of growth, but over maybe the next 3 or 4 years, continuing S&V, every single set is still inside the reprint window. Keep in mind, up to Paldea Fates, that'll go out of rotation. Anything up to Paldea Fates will go out of rotation come next April. But when we look at that, it's just crazy, isn't it? Maybe Sword and Shield has the best room for growth here. Like, it just feels like there's so many undervalued booster boxes in the Sword and Shield era. I still think Chilling Reign is undervalued. I still think Battle Styles is undervalued. I still think Lost Origin is going to be the best investment over the next 12 months. And it's already nudging over $600 US a booster box, sort of since looking at this video a couple of days ago. So it's just crazy. If there's one video about booster boxes and the booster box market and, you know, the potential room for growth we still have on booster boxes, I don't know if there's a better video out there and showing you just the clear data when it comes to this. Sword and Shield is super undervalued. Sun and Moon still has heaps of room for growth. Sun and Moon as an era, it deserves to have $50,000 of total booster box value, like XY is now. It's an era newer than XY. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that if you owned every single Sun and Moon booster box, that in 3 years' time, when it's an extra era old, that you will have $50,000? So your $28,000 of total booster box value will go to $50,000? Well, quite possibly. Not saying exactly that'll happen, but I still think it's undervalued. Sword and Shield at 6,600. You know, in another 3 years, when that's an extra era old, and it's as old as what Sun and Moon currently is, you know, will it be $25,000 worth of total booster box value? It could well be. Like Evolving Skies in another 3 years' time could be a $5,000 or a $6,000 booster box. Lost Origin could be a $2,000 booster box. Fusion Strike could be a $2,500 booster box. I'm not saying that's exactly going to happen, but what I'm saying is this just shows so clearly how undervalued modern booster boxes still are. If you have the gumption to hold on to them for a fair period of time, not just flip them and rotate them, and look, if that's your play and you want to do that, I mean, by all means go for it. But if you want to hold, you know, with the diamond hands and have something that's relatively old, it's that old Chinese proverb, isn't it? I really, really like this one when it comes to Pokemon card investing, which was the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is right now. So if you don't have those booster boxes or you didn't buy them when they come out, whether it's 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, if we're talking black and white, well, the second best time to buy something, a booster box, is now. Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz. Catch everyone next time.